I'm going to sew the snap onto the waistband at the back of the skirt. So this is two parts. One will go on the extension, and the other one will go underneath the band, and they'll snap together. So I'm going to start with this piece. This is the one that has the little post in the middle that's going to snap into the other piece, and it's going to go on the underside of the band. So I have a piece of thread here, and you want a hand needle, and you pick one that's, you know, a size you're comfortable with. I'm using one a little larger than I usually would so that it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. But you want to thread your needle, and because this is a snap, we want double thread. We want extra security. Some things I sew with a single thread, this one's a double. And so two threads, bring the ends down together, and then you're going to knot those. And I do this method around my finger. It took me a while to learn that when I was younger. But you can also do an overhand loop where you circle it and go through the center. It needs to be a big enough knot so it won't go through the fabric. Now, because this is on the inside of the band, we don't want to see the stitching on the outside because it doesn't look very attractive. So I'm going to position it on the inside, and there are 4 holes in this snap. So I'm going to go up from the inside. I'm grabbing some threads or some fabric, but because there's more than one layer on the waistband, I'm only grabbing the inside with my needle. So I'm going up into the snap, one of the snap holes, so my knot's on the back and you don't see my thread on the front. And then I'm going to take 3 stitches in each hole. So again, I'm just grabbing the back side of the band. I'm not grabbing the front fabric, and I'm going up into that same hole. So that's one, and a second one, and on the third one I'm going to run my needle over, and I'm just checking to make sure you can't see it, and I'm going to go into a second hole. And it doesn't matter what order you do this in, but you're going to sew each of these 3 times. So now this is 1. I'm going over to the next hole. And you can just go on the fabric if it's too hard to come up inside the snap, and then come up into the hole once you're over there. And again, 3 times. Now my third stitch, I'm going to take a little stitch in the fabric beside the snap, again not through to the front, and pull it through. And then I'm going to do another little stitch, and I'm going to pull until I have a small loop here, and then I'm going to run my thread through the loop, and that is how you knot it when you're done. So I do 2 of those, going through the loop and pulling it tight, and then you can snip your threads. So that's the snap on that side. Now the other snap is going to go on this extension on the skirt on this side. For proper placement, the skirt should just come together. So there's the opening there. You want these 2 folds of fabric to just be right beside each other. So then you look on the back and you place the back of the snap according to that positioning, so it's going to line up. Now this one I can sew from the back because you're not going to see it. So I'm going to come up from the back side through one of the holes, and then the technique's exactly the same. 3 stitches in each hole. So you can go down. I do it in one motion, but you can go down and come back up. And again, it doesn't matter if you see the thread on the back of this one, because it's going to be against the body of the bear and you won't see it. So I've done 1, there's your finished snap. So I have the dress on the bear because I want to see where to sew the buttons. And this will vary depending on how much stuffing you put in the bear and the fabric that you use for the bear. So my actual straps might be a little bit long, but I'm looking at this. If I crisscross them in the back, then the button is going to go pretty close to the front. Now we're going to sew on the buttons, and I have a 2-hole button that I'm using here, and I'm going to put it fairly close to the end of the strap because when I crisscross it, the bear needs the entire length of the strap there. So I have a knot in my thread. I'm coming up from underneath. It's okay to have the knot there because this part, that side, is against the body of the bear and you won't see it. And I'm coming back down. Now sometimes with buttons we sew them in a way that they have something called a shank, which means that there's a little bit of extra space between the button and the fabric. And I'm not doing that with this one because this fabric is quite thin and I don't think I need it. But if you had a thicker fabric, that would be something you might want to incorporate, and you could look online to see how to sew a button for a thicker fabric. So I've got now, this is 4 times. I'm going to do one more stitch 5 times usually is what I do for a 2-hole button. And then on the back, in order to knot this, you take a little stitch underneath the button, same as on the snap, pull it up so you have a loop, and then you go through the center of the loop and pull it tight. And again, I usually do 2 of those. And cut your thread. And then knot your thread. Same thing for the other button. And there's our buttons. I have the dress back on the bear because I want to see how long to make the skirt. And so I think I'm going to make it about this long. So I'm just going to put a pin right now to mark that length and then take it off the bear. And then I'm going to measure how much that fold is with my seam gauge. And it looks like it is 1 7/8 inches, which would be approximately 5 centimeters. So I'm going to measure that same amount all the way around and pin. So now we're going to press this edge that I pinned earlier. Now, if you fold this quite a bit, you should trim some off. This is the 1 7/8 or 5 centimeters. That's the most I think I would want for a dress this size in terms of folding it. So now I'm actually going to take these pins out because I've got a crease pressed there, and I'm going to unfold it, and I'm going to fold to the crease and then refold on the crease again. So I'm going to have essentially 2 layers of fabric in there, and then I'm going to repin. So all the way around. And you could press this again if you wanted. I think I'm just going to go sew it, and I'll press it again after I've sewn it. So we're back at the machine, and I'm actually going to sew it from the right side, but I want to see how far from the edge I'm going to sew. I want to sew fairly close to this inside folded edge. So I'm going to measure on my machine and see what's a good position for sewing that. And it looks like I'm going to sew it at approximately 2.3, which on my machine is right on the edge of the bobbin cover here. So that's where I'm going to be stitching. I'm going to start in the center at the back. And so lining up with the bobbin cover. Now if there isn't a line on the throat plate, on the guide, that is a line you want to use, you can always take a piece of tape and put it on the, or even a post-it, and put it on the throat plate at the along where you want to sew, and then that will give you that nice easy to see where it is that you're going to be sewing. So back stitching, and we're going to sew a circle completely around the entire skirt. And back stitch and cut your threads. And there's our hem on the bottom of the skirt. When the garment's done, you should always do a final press. So I'm using the end of the ironing board here so that it's easier to press something that's in a circle. I'll try and iron left-handed here so you can see better. So I'm just pressing right now on the top part and the band. I'm not pressing into the gathers. And then I'm going to press the band here and the straps. Be careful with the buttons because buttons are often plastic and they might melt if you're not careful. And then same on the other side, the strap and the band. And now I want to iron the skirt. So you're going to turn it around. This is what this shaped part of the board is for, so that we can not have two layers coming together. And you are going to iron into the gathers with the tip of the iron, but we don't want to press creases in there. So I'm holding it up a little bit. And then you just work your way around the skirt. And so this will give a good press to the hem as well. And there's our finished dress to put on the bear.